Thank you so much. Thank you, and welcome to the Performing Arts series brought to you by the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and the Prince William Network. My name is Nick Kendall, and I am part of Time for Three, which is the group that stands here before you today. And we are very excited to be here. We'd like to tell you that today's program is actually being videotaped. So to our viewers abroad, we would love to have accepted your calls today, but unfortunately we cannot do that, but we'd love to hear from you via email. So please send in your email, and we'd love to get back to you as soon as possible. We thought we'd tell you a little bit about ourselves, Time for Three, and to do that, I thought we'd turn over the mic to Zach Depew, the violinist in Time for Three.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Good. I'm Zach, like Nick was saying. Little background on each of us individually. I'm from Bowling Green, Ohio, over there a little west from here. And I grew up with three older brothers who all play the violin, and we all studied classical music. But in the summertime, in addition to our classical studies, we would go on camp trips, and we would go to fairs and play bluegrass, and sit around campfires and jam with other bluegrassers, guitarists, mandolin players, bass players, upright bass players. And we did a lot of Appalachian-style fiddling and bluegrass growing up. So in addition to classical music, we were exposed to some bluegrass growing up.
My name is Ranaan Meyer. I'm the bass player in Time for Three. Thrilled to be here playing for you guys. We love playing for people like you. You guys are awesome, so thank you so much for listening to us. I actually grew up in South Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. And my mom's a pianist, my brother's a violinist, and my dad's a singer and a principal of an elementary school. And actually, if it wasn't for my dad, when I was really young, he got me involved in musical theater, so I acted and sang and got to entertain, and I really loved it. But then I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time until I was about 15 years old. I actually got introduced to the music and the language of jazz, and jazz was kind of my conduit to all these different types of disciplines in music. And from there, I started getting involved in world music, rock, everything that you could possibly imagine, because I just love music. Music's an amazing language, and now I'm doing everything.
I actually come from around here. I was born in St. Louis, but then my family, I did most of my growing up in the metro area in Silver Spring, right outside Washington, D.C., where this is being shot. And so when I was growing up as a teenager and even younger than that, I was very influenced by gospel music in Washington, D.C., and also a lot of R&B and hip-hop. And actually, when I was really young, I think it was like 8th grade, I really loved drumming. And my parents wouldn't buy me a drum set, so instead I improvised. I made it out of trash cans. And so I actually, when I was younger, I used to go to the street corners of Georgetown, back when you could actually do it and not get stopped by the cops. And I used to go out there with 3 other of my friends, and we used to play buckets and to make ice cream money or whatever. So I used to do that, but very influenced by a lot of different kind of music. And the story kind of with our group, Time for Three, it's kind of a unique blend of instruments. I mean, I think we can fairly say that there are not many groups that are a solo act that have 2 violins and a double bass. And the reason is because we kind of got together accidentally. We didn't really choose these instruments to be part of this group. And the way we met is we all went to the Curtis Institute of Music, which is it was an honor for the 3 of us to be there. It's in Philadelphia, Center City, Philly, and it's really kind of the landmark, probably one of the most difficult and prestigious schools for classical music to get into. And the 3 of us were there, and you just heard us say our different backgrounds stylistically beyond that of just classical music. So I think we kind of stuck out in the scene there because we were kind of the only ones who knew how to improvise and freestyle our own instruments. So we would get together, after playing concerts, playing Beethoven and Brahms, all composers that we really love, and we'd be backstage kind of jamming. And the interesting thing was our music making wasn't really genre specific. Zach may have played a bluegrass head. Ranaan would have functified it with a funk bass line, and, I'd chop it up, from my experience as a percussionist on my violin. So it's kind of like a blend of all of these genres, kind of coming up with our own language. So actually, the first 2 pieces that you heard us play now are both original compositions by Ranaan Meyer, our double bass player, which we're really excited about and very proud to play. And it kind of mixes all sorts of kind of genres. We're gonna continue now and play some more music. Another one of his compositions is kind of his hats off to the funk tradition, which is prevalent in Philadelphia where we all live. So he calls this next piece that you're gonna hear Philly Funk. We hope you enjoy.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. It's a lot of fun to play that tune. You know, a lot of people come up to us after concerts and say, you know, it's great to see you guys because it's three individuals playing together, but you sort of make a team. And you know, the interesting thing about this group is those first three tunes that you just heard are original compositions. And you know, when we come together on a piece of music, it's sort of like a basketball team. We each individually have skills that we keep honing in on as each player, as an individual. You know, in basketball, you work on your jump shot, passing, work on layups, work on your free throws. And with us, it's the same thing. We work on our instruments, but then when we come together, we take those skills and we try to hone them in as a team so that we can communicate to an audience as one voice. The difference is that we don't have a coach. We actually are our coach. So that's why, you know, Ranaan was mentioning sometimes we might get into a fight now and then. We were just talking about it backstage. You know, sometimes in rehearsal we'll get in each other's face, but it's all for the greater good. It's all to communicate. This next tune we like to play for you, just as an example to show you how we sort of work. The tune, you guys know the Beatles? Yeah. The band Beatles? They're not bad, right? No. We love their music. And one of their tunes, a beautiful tune called Blackbird. And we all probably know the melody to that. Well, we took that melody, and if you don't know, let me play it for you here. Just the simple melody, beautiful melody. And as we work together, Nick, as I play that melody, decided, you know, maybe this would be a cool thing to lay on top of that. It's pretty cool, kind of like a ticking clock. And Ranaan, on top of that, a third layer to that, after hearing Nick do that and my playing the melody, added this. Kind of a cool effect. And all these little things that they're doing are really difficult to do on your instrument, but we're using it sort of to create a color for you guys and listening and sort of the vibe that we want to create in this next piece, which is our arrangement of the Beatles tune, Blackbird. We hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much. So, unlike Blackbird, we also like to actually compose our original stuff. Like the first 3 tunes that we heard were all original compositions. And you know, it's a lot of fun for us to do that because we create music just out of thin air, you know, just from the beginning to the end. And it's an incredible process because, you know, as musicians, we get to constantly use our imagination and to inspire one another. The cool thing about this group, for me personally, is, you know, and I think for all of us, but I'm so inspired by Nick and Zach. I mean, they're such amazing players. Aren't they incredible? And it's so easy to write music when you're inspired by amazing musicians. I mean, it's not a chore at all. I mean, I remember when we first started playing together, I couldn't walk down the street or walk to the post office or walk to school without having a piece in mind for this group because it was just so inspiring. So, you know, a lot of our process is writing this music together. We're kind of like a garage band, if you will. Although we're classically trained, we compose like a garage band would, except we don't rehearse in a garage. We rehearse in a pretty nice living room when we rehearse. But that's besides the point. Anyhow, we're kind of like a classical garage band. And if I bring an original composition to the group, Nick, Zach, and I are all spending a lot of time just bringing this thing to life, and it's incredible. But a lot of times, actually, we compose our material together from improvised music. This amazing American composer just wrote a brand new concerto for us that we actually premiered with the Philadelphia Orchestra this month. And it was just incredible. She's actually the most played American composer for the last 4 years, and her name is Jennifer Higdon. And she wrote a piece called Concerto for 3, kind of a play on words with our name, Time for 3, the name of our group. And in most concertos, they have what's called a cadenza. And for those of you who may not know what that is, cadenza is a moment to highlight the soloist and the composer and the composer's work. So it's really an incredible moment. Time for 3 actually wrote this cadenza and also improvised at every performance in front of the Philadelphia Orchestra. It was kind of like, you know, a baseball player's dream, you know, playing in the World Series or something. Our opportunity to solo with one of the best orchestras in the world. Anyhow, we wrote this concerto from the beginning, and what we did is we took the theme from the first movement. It was this actually, it's a bass theme, and I'm going to play it for you. A pretty cool groove, right? So we took this groove and we're like, we got to do something with this because this thing is just way too cool not to do something with. You know what I'm saying? So we decided to start putting some things over it. So Zach actually started it off with a really cool little hit. But believe it or not, that inspires us. And that inspired Nick, the drummer man over here, to do something on his fiddle. Pretty sweet. And don't worry about his bow hair. We actually, that comes from a horse's tail, and we travel with a horse everywhere we go, so it's going to be all right. So this is what we came up with. This is the cadenza from Jennifer Higdon's Concerto for 3, written by Time for 3. Thank you. Thank you so much. So now, that was a piece written by all three of us. And then, speaking of the inspiration, this next piece was an inspiration going to Ecuador. I actually took a trip to Ecuador a couple years ago. And I went to Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador, which happens to be right on the equator, center of the world. Actually, I have a place that's called the center of the world in Ecuador, in Quito, Ecuador. And it's amazing because there's so much going on there. It's such high altitude. You land and it's 10,000 feet. You land there. It's incredible. So you have to get used to the altitude. But that said, the climate control is really challenging there, actually. You'll experience all 4 seasons in one day. You have to layer so many clothes on. Like, just to go out, if you leave at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, you're wearing like 4 layers of clothes. And then by high noon, it gets to be about 80, 85 degrees, and you pretty much have to strip naked. I know. It's incredible because you see like winter, summer, fall, spring, not in that order over the course of the day, and it's really amazing. But that and all the crazy driving, you go to Ecuador, it's almost like everybody's connected like a train when they're driving because that's how close they are, and it's really scary to drive. I actually myself was too afraid to drive in that country. And then all the mountains, all the volcanoes that surround Ecuador, it's really beautiful. Without further ado, this is a piece that I wrote, that we all arranged and wrote, kind of compranged, if you will. This piece is called Ecuador. Thank you so much. We'd like to answer some of your questions now. Let's start with a question from our studio audience. But first, I want to invite, actually, the viewing audience to email TF3 questions to the email address on your screen.
When you guys were in high school, how long did you practice? And was it fun?
Was it fun? No. It was not fun. But, it was worth it. Looking back, I think all three of us share similar experience. It's a good question because, we've all been there. We've all been in high school, junior high. We've all grown up. Well, that's debatable. But we've definitely have gone through those ranks, and it was really tough. For myself, I really did not, hate is a strong word, but I really did not like practicing. It was really difficult for me. I would, because I wanted to play on the basketball team. And I wanted to hang out with my buddies and my friends afterwards and at school, and just kind of hang out. And it really, if it weren't for my parents and for my teachers, to really kind of corral my energy and kind of force me sometimes, you got to put in the hours when you're young. And if it weren't for them, truthfully, if it weren't for those people in my life, I would not be doing what I love to do as a career, travel around the world with a band that's completely unique, crossing genres, and extremely meaningful. And it's for fun. It's kind of like my job is my hobby, and I know that I'm one of very few lucky people that does that. But it was worth the time put in. I think it was. How about you? How about you guys?
Well, for myself, I really didn't like anything when I was growing up, to tell you the truth, for more than a day and a half. I was a real complicated little kid. At 4, I started studying the piano, and I quit the piano about 6 times. My mom was my piano teacher. I drove my mom actually berserk. Then I switched to cello when I was 9, and I played that for 3 months, and I quit the cello. And then when I was 11, my mom said, okay, look, here's the deal. You're going to pick an instrument now. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be in band, orchestra. I don't really care, but you're going to play it until you're out of the house. So whatever you pick, think about it, because you're going to play it for at least another 7 years, and you're not quitting no matter what. So I decided to play the bass because there was this really cool kid in the 6th grade who got all the chicks. He happened to play the bass. I wanted to sit next to him, become friends, so I could get the chicks too. I got a few chicks. I didn't really care about the bass, okay? And I tried to quit about a year later, and my mom said, nope, you're not quitting this time. Suck it up. So when I was 15, after not really caring about the bass for 4 years, but getting some chicks, I got turned on to the music of jazz, like I was telling you before. And I went from practicing 0 hours and not caring about it to thinking it was the coolest thing in the world and practicing 2 hours a day. Actually, I remember this really vividly. My parents, they were leaving to go grocery shopping, and I just started practicing. They went to go grocery shopping, and they came home 2 hours later, and I was still practicing, and they were so shocked that they dropped the groceries, the milk, the eggs, all over the floor because they couldn't believe that I was still practicing. And I remember that day because it was a landmark. I realized that I want to get better at this. I want to be good at something because it really feels good to get better at something.
No, give them props. Go right ahead. I grew up with a father who locked me in the basement and whipped me if I didn't practice. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think all of us up here share the same thing, the same struggle, which is wanting to practice at the age of 13, 14, 15. It's really difficult because I think there are a lot of things that interest us at that age. You're sort of thinking about what you want to do. High school's coming and this and that. So. And especially in high school, when you have friends, you want to hang out, and it's like, guys, I got to go practice. It's like, oh, man, come on. Let's just play one more game, like whatever you're doing, basketball or... So that was a difficult thing. The great thing, though, or the discovery that I personally found with practicing in high school was that no matter how my day went, when I came home, this was a way to get away from math, science, everything that was analytical that I was studying, and be able to be creative And I found that a lot of what I was studying was learning information. And so I'd get home, I'd be tired, and picking this thing up, I was able to escape all that. I was able to create things, perform things, get excited about music that nobody else was doing. It was just me, and I was in complete control, which was a lot of fun. And I noticed also that by practicing, I had more to say on the instrument. I was able to do more, and that really fired me up. That got me practicing a lot. Once I discovered that, oh my God, by practicing I get better at something, It's like, it was a really exciting discovery, and so I wanted to practice more and more. So by the end of high school, I was ready to go to college. I wanted to go to college for violin, and I was practicing about 6 hours a day.
We'd like to invite the viewing audience to email the questions to TF3 to the email address on your screen. I'd like to encourage this. But we'd love to take another question from our audience.
Who are your major influences?
Major influences. The music of Mahler. To me, it's Gustav Mahler, who's a very prevalent classical composer. To me, was one of those geniuses, because if you listen to his symphonies, one of his symphonies is actually called Symphony for 1,000, where you have literally 1,000 musicians all on one stage. It's an incredible thing to hear. And the scope of his music, his imagination, you'd think that he composed it while flying an airplane or going to the most beautiful parts of the world and looking out over the ocean and writing at that spot. But actually, he composed all his music in a little hut in back of his home. And to me, that's real genius, that he was able to kind of confine himself to a small space, and his imagination let him be inspired to all the music that he created. So I really respect that.
My most major influences are definitely Nick and Zach. They're my colleagues. I'm playing with them all the time. I'm making music with them all the time, creating all the time, and they're also there to bounce ideas off of and to get better as a result of their knowledge. Pretty much 24 hours a day. It's an incredible thing to have. So the people that I work closely with are definitely my most major influences. That said, also my teacher that I got to study with, my mentor at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, who's the principal bassist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, Hal Robinson, who is not just a bass teacher, he's also a mentor, and he really groomed me, I think, to understand music and to get really to a high level on this instrument. And so those are a few people that I really admire and respect.
I've always enjoyed performers like Yo-Yo Ma because they're great performers, and that's what they're about. Joshua Bell is a young violinist, inspired me when I was a young guy. Most importantly, though, for me, I have 3 older brothers that all play the violin, and when I wanted to not practice or when I wanted to put it away, they always kicked my butt and told me to take it out and teach me something, or they looked out for me, all of them, but especially my next brother, Jason, the next one up. He's closer in age. The oldest is 10 years older than me, so he was out of the house by the time I was playing. But, Jason would come in and be like, dude, you got to practice, man. You sound terrible. And I'd be like, what's the big deal, man? He's like, you're going to go play for like 200 people in a week, and you stink. Get it going. That's, you know what, getting that kind of honesty in this world, you get a lot of people that say, you sound great, and they walk off. To get that kind of honesty is awesome, because that's really a true friend, is somebody that'll tell you straight up what you're doing wrong at times. So that was a great thing with my bro.
Why did you become a musician?
Why did we become a musician? Because I can't sing or dance. No, just kidding.
Well, now being a singer would still make you a musician.
That's a really good point, man. Thanks for making me look stupid in front of everybody. Appreciate that. Thanks. No, thanks, really.
You're welcome. Well, I became a musician pretty much, almost monkey see, monkey do. My brother actually is a violinist, and he's 7 years older than me. And I used to go everywhere when he was performing, and also my mother's a pianist, and I would see her performing. And when you're a little kid, you think anybody performing up on stage is the most famous performer ever, you know? I don't know if you can remember that, but when I was 4 years old and I saw my, 11-year-old brother up on stage, I thought he was Jascha Heifetz or Itzhak Perlman. So I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be up on stage. I wanted to be performing. So when I was 4 years old, I was in our above-ground swimming pool in southern New Jersey with my mom. And, like I said, she's a pianist. And I actually asked her if she would teach me the piano. So that's kind of how I became a musician.
I think the reason why I love to play is because I have the freedom. Well, I think in my opinion, so much of our today's world is just so filled with convenience now, which is fine, and it serves its purpose. But for me, we have internet, and we have the ability now to travel with information super fast. We can now experience things through virtual reality on our computer. Things that are just, they look so beautiful. You can experience videos of the Sistine Chapel in Italy without even having to travel there. It's still not the same as actually going to those places. And I feel like in today's world, being able to stop time with music, for me, the timing is all about what happens between two notes. And it's the timing of those two notes that really makes us feel a certain way, and the energy in the crowd. And for me to be able to stop that time, and for me to feel that moment, and hopefully communicate that with the audience, is a very unique ability, and I treasure that very much because I feel like that is a very important but also meaningful experience, a life experience. And this is one of the reasons why I love to play. It has been a real pleasure playing for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're called Time for Three. And before we play one more piece, we just want to mention and thank all of you guys in the auditorium for joining us and being such a wonderful audience to play for. And we also like to thank the viewing audience across the country, across the nation, and all the studios. How about the studio audience? Give it up for all the kids across the country right now. That's great. Thank you guys, and we're going to play one more piece. We invite you, please, to email us with any other follow-up questions. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And also check out our website, timefor3.com, timefortree.com. We're going to play one more piece that we close out our shows with. This is called the Orange Blossom Special. Have a good day.
the artists after the show. You and your students can ask questions of the artists after each broadcast by emailing us at kcperfarts@aol.com. Don't forget to visit us online. There you'll find dozens of archived programs from previous seasons that feature artists such as members of the National Symphony Orchestra, Ballet Hispanico, the Billy Taylor Trio, lyricist Stephen Schwartz, cast members from MAME, and many more. Prepare for each program by downloading the study guide. Each guide includes background information about the artists, instructional activities, and additional resources to use in the classroom. The Kennedy Center Performing Arts Series, bringing the arts to your classroom. This all-male dance company combines traditional dance from their native Pacific Islands and contemporary dance to present an explosive mix of rhythm, spirit, and energy on stage. During this performance and demonstration program, dancers show off their athletic prowess and graceful moves, as well as discuss the unique cultural aspect of their work. Black Grace will be broadcast live on Tuesday, April 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The Kennedy Center Performing Arts Series, bringing the arts to your classroom.